Oh. All right. Ooh. If everyone, please, my gosh, stand back here. If everyone would please take a seat. We do have the guest of honor here tonight, and we have the choir here ready to go, so we need to get going. My name is Linda Locke. I am the president for the next few minutes anyway of the Berryessa Citizens Advisory Council. And our minutes will be on the, where's the, oh, you know what? I took my glasses out, but I forgot to put them on. There you go. Our minutes and the treasurer's report will be on the, I keep getting caught on here, on our website. Susan Fowle, our treasurer, oh, she's back there. She just has something to say about dues.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan, the treasurer for the BCAC, and I'm here to ask for $10 from whoever would like to join and be a member of BCAC, or if you haven't paid your dues. I do not have a treasurer's report because I've been baking cookies all day for you. And for $10, you can take home quite a few cookies tonight. No, but honestly, the $10 goes a long way. It gets you a meeting a month throughout the year. We have cookies, refreshments, and you have amazing neighbors that you get to meet and socialize with. And you also get your representatives, the water district, you get the councilmen, you get the police agencies here. So the $10 goes a long way. So if you want to join, or if you haven't paid your dues, see me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. We are going to introduce our new police chief for the city of San Jose, and he will be introduced by our councilperson, David Cohen. Oh my goodness, this thing is scary.
Well, I can vouch for the fact that that membership in BCAC is one of the best deals around. So definitely pay your dues and become a member if you aren't already. I'm excited to introduce our new police chief. I brought some notes up here because of his extensive resume, and I want to remember it, but I want to make sure you know how many great qualifications our new police chief has. Chief Paul Joseph is a compassionate and thoughtful leader, began his law enforcement career in the city of San Mateo before joining the San Jose Police Department in 1994. He earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science from Cal State Northridge and a law degree from UC Hastings. So he has a pretty good academic background. He's also a graduate of Los Angeles Police Department's leadership program. He served a variety of roles in the San Jose Police Department. As an officer, he worked in patrol, narcotics enforcement, merge, and the robbery unit, and served as a detective in the robbery unit. He was promoted to sergeant in 2006, overseeing patrol and the field training program. Later rose to lieutenant in 2016, where he led both the robbery and homicide units. In 2020, he became captain of the Western Division, and by 2021, he was appointed assistant chief of police. As you know, our old friend, Chief Mata, decided to retire back at the beginning of the year, so in March, Chief Joseph was appointed as interim police chief, so he's been serving as police chief since March. But in October, the council made it official and hired him as our permanent police chief, and we're very excited about that. I'm really looking forward to seeing his leadership going forward. He has definitely earned the respect and trust of the men and women of the San Jose Police Department, and I'm really glad that he was able to join us tonight to introduce himself to all of you. So please welcome Chief Joseph.
Wow, thank you, Council Member, for that build-up. I hope I can live up to the hype. Listen, thank you very much for having me here tonight. You know, getting out in the community, engaging with the community is the most important thing that we do. We know that no matter what resources we have at the police department, we can't be successful without your help, without your partnership. And so that's why we make every effort to be here at community events, community meetings and whatnot, get your input, get your ideas about how we should be policing this city, the things that are of concern to you, because what's of concern to you is of concern to us. So as a council member mentioned, I've been with the San Jose Police Department for an awfully long time. I won't go back over all the different things that I did, but I will just say that for the 3 years prior to being the interim chief, I was the assistant chief, and that meant that I was in charge of all operations for the police department, and that's a really big job. In fact, in some ways, that's almost a bigger job than the one I have right now. It's just constant, if you can imagine an organization this size and all the different decisions that have to be made. But it gave me a great opportunity to see what the job of the chief is like and get myself prepared, hopefully, for someday assuming that role. And when Chief Mata announced his retirement, I was fortunate enough to be named interim, and I did that for 7 months until Councilmember Cohen and his colleagues were good enough to appoint me to the job permanently. So I'm as permanent as a chief ever becomes. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited to continue my work in this city that I care so much about. And I want to talk a little bit about how I see us moving forward. You probably have heard about the staffing issues that police departments all across the country are having. For a variety of reasons, in the last 4 years, it's been very hard to hire police officers. As you know, we went from a police force of about 1,400 down to about 850 during our pension battles with the city. When that got resolved, we started slowly rebuilding. We got up to about 1,050, and then 2020 hit, and that's kind of where we've stalled. And just to give you some perspective on that, most police departments in this country, on average, have 2.2 officers per 1,000 residents. We have 1 per 1,000 residents. So I can't just throw my hands up in the air and say there's no way to police San Jose with 1,050 cops, and I can't assume that this hiring situation is going to turn itself around. We're doing everything possible to bring more police officers to the department, but I have to find a way with what we've got to effectively police. And so I think there's really 3 things that we need to do at San Jose PD to get us to where we can deliver the services that you expect and that you deserve. And so the first one is use of technology. There are many different technological advancements coming along that make us more efficient, more effective, and help bridge that gap that we experience because of our shortage of staffing. One of the biggest projects we've taken on in many years is the automated license plate reader camera project. We started that towards the end of 2021, and we really started getting them deployed citywide in 2022 and 2023. So right now, San Jose has, I believe it's in the neighborhood of 700 to 800 license plate reader cameras all over the city. And so what those do is they obviously track the license plates of cars that pass by them. And so if a car is wanted for some reason, if it's a reported stolen vehicle or a vehicle that was involved in a felony crime and it's been entered into the computer system, our officers that are out working will get a notification in real time. Hey, this car just went by Capitol and Berryessa, let's say, and then it allows them to respond and try to find the car and make an arrest right now. But what the system also does is it collects information that can be retrieved by our detectives. And so we've solved so many cases by going into this database that we never would have solved in a million years. I'll give you a perfect example. When the very first case that our detectives ever solved with the use of the license plate reader camera data was the robbery of Peter's Bakery at Alum Rock and White. So they open very early. Well, the employees start showing up very early in the morning to start baking and getting things ready for the customers. And so at about 2 or 3 in the morning, 5 kids came in, held them up at knife point, roughed them up a little bit, took some money, and they fled. And all we had was a vehicle description of, I think it was like a white BMW with a black right front fender or something. And we didn't even have a license plate. But you can search this database using vehicle descriptors as well as a plate. So the detectives went in. Now, mind you, when this happened, we had one intersection in the city with license plate reader cameras, and that was at Monterey and Kertner. It was the only ones we had. And this robbery happened at Alum Rock and White. So what's the connection? Well, fortunately for us, the connection was that a white BMW with a black front fender had gone through the intersection of Monterey and Kertner a couple weeks earlier. We got the plate from that image, and we were able to do additional follow-up and determine who was involved and took everybody into custody. So that's one success story, but that's from having one intersection with cameras. Now imagine what we can do now with all the cameras that we have. So we recognize that technology concerns people in terms of privacy. And so I think the way we've worked to alleviate those concerns, I hope, and you may still have some, is the first thing is we've made very clear what it is we're doing. We're very transparent about the fact that we've got them out there. We collect a lot of data. It's all on our website about what we're doing with these cameras, and we make sure to stick to our word. If there was, I met with a number of groups before we deployed the cameras who had different concerns, and I explained how we would make sure that none of those horror stories came to pass, and none of them have. And the success stories we've had have been tremendous. So anyway, greater use of technology helps us bridge the gap for our shortage of personnel. The second thing we need to do is make greater use of civilian employees where somebody who doesn't need to be a sworn police officer to do a job. So for instance, we have community service officers deployed all throughout the city. What is a community service officer? Well, they're the officers that you see. They don't carry a gun, they don't carry weapons, but they have a uniform like this with a light blue shirt, they drive a white car, and they go out and they take reports on crimes where the suspect is not present, or they go out and they handle accidents where there's not injuries or there's not anticipated to be some kind of arrest. They'll direct traffic, they do all kinds of different things. And you don't have to be a police officer to do those jobs, but if a CSO is not there, a police officer will be doing them. So the more CSOs we can get, the more it frees up our officers to do the things that only they can do. We have crime analysts who work in our Bureau of Investigations. They'll do a lot of the legwork that a detective might be doing otherwise, but doesn't require a police officer with all of that training to do the legwork. So we're working on getting civilian staff, professional staff as we call them, in places where it can help bolster our workforce. One thing that we're doing, probably our next big technology project, kind of combines both of those ideas. We're standing up a real-time intelligence center. What is that? That sounds scary. It sounds mysterious. All that it really is a means of getting information in real time to the officers responding to a call for service. So it's like, imagine our dispatch center where they don't have to direct the officers anywhere, they're just pumping out information to them all the time. So that's a project that we're working on right now and hope to have up and running early next year. The final thing that we need to do to bridge this gap of personnel is we have to find work that right now is being done by police officers that can be done by somebody else better equipped, better trained, more appropriate to handle those types of events. So the three sort of categories that most often come up are situations involving people with some sort of mental health issue, people with chronic substance abuse issues, and people that are homeless. Often there are overlap between those three areas, but a police officer might not be the most appropriate person to go and handle one of those incidents. The problem is, on Christmas, in the rain, at 2 in the morning, in the creek, when somebody calls 911, guess who's there? We are, and the fire department, and the paramedics. We're the ones that are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we're working very closely with our partners at the county to find different response possibilities for those types of events. You may have read about our mobile crisis assessment team. These are police officers, but they're police officers that get additional training in dealing with people in mental health crisis, and they respond to those types of calls. We also have a new program called PERT, which is the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team, and that program partners a police officer with a clinician from County Behavioral Health so that we have somebody on scene immediately with an officer to make sure the situation is safe to go to these types of calls. We're trying to find ways to transfer more calls to the county's trust system. Trust, and I don't want to speak to a program that we don't run, but basically what trust is They have 4 teams, I believe, that respond to the field for what they refer to as sort of low acuity mental health issues. If there's danger or risk or weapons or a person's suicidal, it's probably not a call that would be appropriate to go for safety reasons, but other issues, they'll respond, and we want to be able to put as many calls in their hands as possible because, for one, it's not really appropriate for us always, although I think we do a better job sometimes than we get credit for in those very difficult situations. But for 2, that's what they're designed to do. So we're working with the county to find more ways to siphon off some of that work. So those are really the 3 things that I see as being our key to succeeding in the future. Now, more cops, yes, we need them. The more we have, the more visible they can be in your community, the more free time they will have to be out of the cars, walking around, talking to people, engaging, building relationships. When we're short-staffed, unfortunately, our patrol officers are running from call to call to call, and they don't have a lot of free or downtime to do some of the things that we would all like them to do. So we are recruiting. If you know a person who is interested in an exciting, challenging career where they can give back to their community with great pay and benefits, please have them consider becoming a San Jose police officer. I have found it to be incredibly rewarding. I've done this for, well, it'll be 30 years here in San Jose in about a week and a half, with 2.5 years at the San Mateo Police Department before that, and I signed up for however long they'll let me do this. So I love this job as much as I did the day I started. I still get excited to come to work. I still feel a great sense of satisfaction, being able to give something back to this community, being able to guide the future of the department. When I was the interim chief for 7 months and then I became the permanent chief, people asked, is there anything different between being the interim chief and being the permanent chief? And the one thing that I would say is different is I wasn't able to make the upper command staff promotions during the time that I was the interim chief because first of all, I didn't feel that was appropriate since I didn't know that I would be the chief. And I think those positions are really important, and I wanted to make sure that whoever was going to stay here got that opportunity. Well, since I became the chief, I quickly promoted an assistant chief and 2 deputy chiefs and then 3 captains. I believe last month, most of you probably met your new captain out here in the Foothill Division. He's back in the back of the room, and he'll be speaking also, Max Zuniga. Let's hear it for Max Zuniga. So I'm really excited to have Max in this role. I've known him for a really long time. I know his commitment to the community. I know his commitment to service. I know his extensive experience, and I know he'll do a great job for you. Out here in Foothill, you've gone through a number of captains kind of quickly, and I often hear, why do the captains change so often? We just get to know them, we just get to like them, and they change. And so this is what I'll say. We don't move the captains around the city just willy-nilly. There are 4 patrol divisions in San Jose. Each one has a patrol captain, and I don't move, like I wouldn't take Captain Zuniga and say, wow, you're doing such a great job in Foothill that I'm going to put you in Western. I'm going to leave him here in Foothill unless there's some other need of the department. But please understand that there are 9 captains at the department, so there are other captain positions besides patrol, and if one of those jobs opens up, sometimes I have to move a captain. If a deputy chief or an assistant chief retires, obviously there's a promotion and we move a captain into a new role. But my hope is that the 3 captains I just promoted, Captain Zuniga here, Captain Tran out in the Western Division, and Captain Miri in the Central Division, are all going to stay here for a while. I think we now have some good stability in the department and some excellent people in roles that they're well suited for and that I think will be accessible and responsive to you. So with that, again, I appreciate and I'm humbled and I'm honored that you let me serve as your chief. Any questions you have for me? I know, yes, sir.
Not a question, but a comment.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the low ratio of police officer population.
Yes.
And yet, this is the 10th largest city, and you have among the lowest criminality against property and person in the nation. Only, I think, Jacksonville, anything approaching our numbers. Well done, all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That is the work of the men and women that come here every day put on the uniform and they're out there serving you. You know, it's funny. I'm obviously not the youngest guy at the department, so I wasn't real big into social media. And when I became the assistant chief, they told me I had to have a Twitter page, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with that? And they said, do whatever you want with it. So if you're so interested, if you're so inclined, follow my Twitter page or the department's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. The reason I say that is because there's a lot of very noteworthy things that are done here at the police department that people don't necessarily know about. We're not going to call a press conference, to announce every arrest that we make or every action that we take in the community. But we do put that stuff out on social media. So just to give you some kind of sense of what your police department is doing for you, if you follow us on social media, you'll see those things, because we do want to make sure that we get the great work of the men and women here out for your review. Yes, ma'am.
How do you determine how many patrol officers you have out in a certain area? Is it based on 911 calls? We've had a significant increase in crime at the intersection here of Arias and Capitol. Like last week there was a prostitution bust and illegal gambling. November 5th there was a homicide involving a vehicle and a pedestrian. Is it based on 911 calls? How do you do, what's the formula?
It is based on volume of calls, and Captain Zinnig is going to talk a little bit about that case that you just described. It doesn't change rapidly. So we have 6-month patrol shifts, and we're constantly reviewing our call data to see how we need to shift resources around. But the reality is there aren't a lot of resources to shift around. So I wish I had 2.2 officers for every 1,000 residents of San Jose.
Calls, do you mean, is it 911 calls or 311 calls or 311 app or a combination of calls?
Calls to the police. So we have 911 calls, and then we have a non-emergency number, which is actually not 311, but it's 277-8900. 311, unfortunately, was the victim of the worst rebrand timing in history, because the weekend I think they were going to do it is when COVID hit and nobody knew. But 311 is a great resource to report other things to the city, road repairs, street lights out, things of that nature. But we don't receive 311 calls. But all of our emergency and non-emergency calls for service factor into how we deploy the officers.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Residents of San Jose that have cameras on their houses, is that another issue that the police department can look into, also to try to have them?
Absolutely. So cameras, so I was a robbery detective about 25 years ago, and I was fortunate enough to come back to the unit in 2017 as the unit commander. And police work is police work. It doesn't change all that much, but I would say the big difference was that in 2017, it's really hard to commit a crime without being on camera somewhere, either doing the crime or going to the crime or leaving the crime. So yes, we make tremendous use of cameras owned by private residents, owned by businesses, and we do a lot of canvassing. But you may also know that we have a bunch of different programs related to cameras at San Jose PD. So we have a program, San Jose Cam, where you can register your camera with us. So typically a crime occurs and we just physically knock on doors and ask people, hey, do you have a camera? Could we review the video and capture it if there's something important on there? But with the San Jose Cam program, now people's cameras are registered. So if something happens, we know that, like, let's say your house is a block away from the crime and it's got a camera and you've already expressed a willingness to let us view the video. So we don't see it in real time, but we know that you're somebody we want to make contact with and take a look at that camera. We have a program that allows small businesses to be reimbursed for the cost of the camera, or actually residents and businesses can be reimbursed, and then another program that gives cameras to small businesses. So yes, cameras. One of the components of the Real-Time Intelligence Center is a video management system that's going to allow us to tap into the Department of Transportation cameras that are at intersections all over the city. So you probably notice when you're at a large intersection, there's cameras. And you probably think, oh, well, if something happened here, the police must have that on video. But those cameras don't record. Currently, all those cameras do is provide a live feed to the Department of Transportation so that they can monitor traffic patterns and adjust the timing of the signal lights and things like that. When we launch the Real-Time Intelligence Center, with our new video management system, we're going to be able to view those cameras. We already can view them, but we're going to actually be able to record them and have them like on a buffer system so that if something happens, we can go back and pull the feed. And so anyway, that's going to be a huge, huge bonus for us. So imagine a police officer now is going to a call at Capitol and Berryessa, and somebody in this Real-Time Intelligence Center is looking at that DOT camera and seeing, oh, it's a blue Toyota speeding away southbound on Capitol Expressway. That's great information that we would not have otherwise, and hopefully increases our chances of capturing the bad guy. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the Penitencia Neighborhood Association has been trying to get the automated license plate readers at the egress and ingress into the neighborhood, but it has been stopped by the city of San Jose Attorney's Office for third-party disclosure of information. With your position now as the chief of police, would you embrace neighborhood associations to try and set up automated license plate readers for their neighborhoods, protect their neighborhoods, and they would basically police? Or if the city of San Jose would pay for it, that'd be better.
Well, so I think currently every camera that the city has paid for is deployed. I'm not familiar with exactly what you're describing. So I can't be an advocate for a particular company, but the company that we lease the cameras from, if a private entity, whether it's a resident or a business, wishes to lease a camera from that same company, all that data will go into our database and all those same alerts would come to us. So I think what you were talking about, if now this is starting to ring a bell, was installing a privately paid for leased camera on a city utility pole. Was that the issue? Yeah, that's a little in the weeds. Let me talk to you afterwards on that one. Anybody, if no one else has any other questions, thank you again. I'm honored to be here, and I want to turn it over to Captain Zuniga. Yes? Okay. Linda? Okay. Max, come on up.
I appreciate you guys having me for this recap. So I was able to pull statistics from November 1st, 2024 through December 7th, 2024. Total in this area, and we have to understand, like Councilmember Cohen says, is that the BCAC extends a little bit further than 680, and I know oftentimes we're interested of everything of 680 east. So total in the boundary areas, there have been 651 calls for service. Out of those 651 calls, 153 of those were self-initiated activity. That's from the men and women of our organization going out and proactively addressing many of the community concerns and public safety that's currently occurring. And that's how we're able to keep crime low in our communities. Now, out of those, our officers responded to 498 calls for service, which the highest of calls was, we had 16 stolen vehicles, 10 vehicle burglaries, and 2 robberies that occurred in the area. So with that being said, is I know one of the biggest things is that folks are interested about, and you guys asked about last time, was the homicide that occurred down the road. Now the homicide was an isolated incident, and that individual was immediately taken into custody. The next incident that folks are concerned about was the brothel that was down the street. One of those things is, again, I explained last time, and I'll explain it again. If you see something, please say something. That is one of the most important things that we can say, is through the trust that we build in our community, we begin to build a legitimacy, and that you guys are our most important witnesses. That case came about because there was community members who had made anonymous reports, and we followed up on those anonymous reports, and we were able to conduct an investigation and apprehend 4 individuals and close that business down, as well as any further issues that were happening in the area. So it's important that you are the eyes and ears for our department. As the chief explained, with the per capita that we have per our officers, normally in an area like this, on a good night, we'll have maybe 4 officers on a shift. So on swing shift, we'll have maybe 4 to 5 officers. On midnights, the same thing. And that's on both sides of the week to do that. So we'll have, overall in 24 hours, we'll have 12 officers on one side of the week and another 12 officers on another side of the week to deal with the community's concerns, and over a month with 651 calls for service, ranging from 911 calls, non-emergency calls, alarms, what have you, that is occurring out in our neighborhood. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am. For the sideshows? Yeah, I didn't go into it, but that is something that I do plan on looking into, is if there's specific make and model. I know that there is currently a nationwide trend that's occurring that involves Kias, Hyundais, and I think it's Infinitis that it's occurring. Many of these cars have the push button, the keyless entry, the push button, and what happens is they sell a device over the internet, so you're really familiar with that. I'll tell you is I'm a personal victim of that myself. I have an old Infiniti, and what they do is they just break the sunroof, slide in through the sunroof, reprogram the key, and it's literally taking me longer to give you guys feedback than it takes to take the vehicle. Oftentimes, many of the cars that do happen, right, with the sideshows and everything else, are rear-wheel drive cars. Some of these different sports cars, the Camaros, the Chargers, the Corvettes, some of those different cars like that. They steal them for their engines, for their rear wheels and everything else, so that they can come out and do sideshows, and then we'll find them throughout the Bay Area, or they'll ship them off somewhere else. Yes, sir.
Did the San Jose police officers for the Foothill Division attempt to make a route through all the neighborhoods independently of what activity is going on there, just so that there's a presence of the police in the neighborhood that the neighbors can see?
Yes, sir. That is one of our things, and that's in our policies for our officers, to proactively patrol the areas in their beats and to have direct knowledge of what's occurring. I'll tell you, one of the biggest things for me is when we're providing concerns, and I'm getting feedback from the community in either a phone call or an email, or I'm hearing it from, I'm getting an email from the council members through the emails that are being fed from the residents in these advisory groups, is immediately provide feedback to our officers and their sergeants. It's because you have the best knowledge as to what's occurring in the community. When I go to these community meetings, I'm hearing some of the incidents that are occurring. Immediately, I'll start sending emails back out to the sergeants and to lieutenants so that our officers can be aware of current events. Last Thursday, I received some information from community members up on Suncrest. They advised me that there's individuals that are going up there. I forward those emails on to our lieutenants. Our lieutenants immediately fed that to our sergeants, and that night they went out, proactively addressed that area, and they were able to arrest 3 individuals and got an unregistered firearm out of those areas. On Saturday night, I know it's not part of this advisory or neighborhood association, but another one is our officers were proactively patrolling the area and were able to take off an individual who had an unregistered short barrel rifle tucked in his waistband. So on a day-to-day basis, our officers are proactively addressing this. Just in this neighborhood association, for the number of calls for service, nearly a quarter of those calls is because of our officers doing proactive police work and patrolling your neighborhood.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. Here's your agenda. Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight. All right. We do have our guest singers tonight, but I'm going to change the agenda real quick for a short ask for nominations for BCAC members for our executive board for this coming year, 2025. So, and I don't think that'll take very long. Is there anyone who is just dying to be on our board? We need one more, at least one more at-large person. And you can't nominate somebody that you haven't talked to, but you can nominate yourself. So is there anyone that would like to do that? Otherwise, I'm going to start calling on some of you. I had a couple of phone numbers and I didn't get a chance to call. Okay, so we'll move on. The executive board has decided they'd like to stay on in the position that they're currently in, and that would be except for the president. Oh, okay, I'm going to stand back here. That would be for the president. President can only serve 4 years consecutively. I've gone a little past that, so I cannot be your president next year. Oh, and so, but Dr. Fuentes, who is at a board meeting tonight, the school board meeting, she agreed to take the presidency for next year, and I will be the vice president. And Ty Greaves will stay on as recording secretary. Ceda will stay on as corresponding secretary. Susan will stay on as treasurer. Sharon is an at-large person. Did Jamal come in? I don't know if Jamal came in. Can't see. Jamal Khan is an at-large person. And Prasanna oh boy, how do I say your name? Prasanna is going to stay as an at-large person. So I need, unless anybody objects, I would ask for, yes, sir?
Motion to adopt by acclamation.
Okay. Second, there's a tie and, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? If you say opposed, you get to be on the board. Okay. All right. We are so excited tonight to have Sierra Mont Choir under the leadership of Emmeline Montoya. So if she would come up and figure out how you want to arrange your kids.
first 10